Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. We are going to geek out today. I'm super juiced about this. Suzanne Gose is here with us again today, and we are talking about language learning, second language learning, and specifically how that affects your child's ability to learn, their brain skills, their confidence, their, oh my gosh, so many things, their health, even.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. I don't want to waste any time because seriously, I love language. I love language learning. I love learning about how the brain works. I don't know, I'm
Mhm.
super geek, but it's so fascinating to me when I put in my email this morning that I learned in college, I read somewhere that I was studying the revitalization of Native American languages,
Right.
and there was an idea in there that said if you don't have the word for green, if you don't have the word green in your language and somebody else does, so like English, we have the word green, somebody else might not have a different word for it. They see green, it's green, but they see it differently. There's a little nuance, there's separation, and I was mind blown. What? It affects your worldview like that? Who you are as a person, how you see the world, culture. Oh my gosh, fascinating. And Suzanne knows all the other stuff of when you learn a second language, how that affects everything else. So if your kids are going, I mean, we have a like quote unquote requirement if we're going
Right.
to we have our kids be college ready to have some foreign language. But
Mhm.
what if we looked at it as this is part of healthy learning and learning how to learn and
Yeah.
learning how to activate our brains? Oh my gosh, Suzanne and I were just geeking out about this before we started recording, but I'm excited. So, Suzanne, can you tell us? You are the founder of Flip Flop Spanish. You also taught Spanish in public school for a while. So, tell me why you love teaching language so much. A little bit of your background.
Sure. For me, so I actually wanted to share Jesus. I wanted to be a missionary. And so living in Texas, I thought, oh, I need to learn Spanish because that was the closest for I wanted to be a foreign missionary. I wanted to be the exciting stuff out there. So that just made sense to me. And then I ended up turning into a public school teacher just through that process. So never got to do that, but that's okay. So the main idea with learning a second language is to increase your reach, right? And so everybody thinks, oh, well, if I don't have to live somewhere that, if I just live somewhere that only speaks English, then I'm fine. But my goal here is to help you to recognize it's not just about increasing your reach. It's actually increasing your life quality, your brain, your ability to communicate in your own language. There's so many things just about communicating as a human, not necessarily about language, that your brain is improving because you're using this part. There's a part in the front of the brain that is only used for a second language. If you only have one language there, it's like this sad little dead raisin thing. It's just gray and dark and it doesn't wake up. But as soon as you say like mucho gusto, that's why I'm wearing this, is to help people go, wait, what does that say? And so that curiosity of that's not my language. Let me understand the notion, the message that this little milk jug is saying to this little soy sauce thing. What's the notion there? And once your brain gets curious, kapow, you have a synapse that wasn't there before. So once you create more synapses, more shortcuts, more neural pathways, your brain increases. Just think about the number of ways you have to get to the grocery store. More ways is better, right? And you can go faster, slower. There's just so many opportunities of health in your brain if you wake that part up. If you don't communicate in that second language, so you can't just do like memorize a list of words. And if you never use it, it's not quite the same. So I wore this to help you. Everybody out there, you just grew a synapse because you're like, what does mucho gusto mean? And it means nice to meet you. Soy is I am, soy milk, soy sauce, I'm
I love
sauce,
it.
I'm milk, mucho gusto.
I love it. That's so
So,
great. Oh my gosh. So we're talking about brain health. We're talking about just adding more curiosity and
yeah,
creating more brain waves and which allows us to learn better, right?
right.
So how does and I almost want to just like let you have it here because this is just it's so fascinating to me. But tell us some of the ways that it helps us learn.
Okay. So there's so many. The main thing is just think about a second language as kind of background exercise. So whenever you play a sport and you do push-ups, you need to recognize that on the football field, on the basketball court, on the tennis court, you'd never ever do a push-up during that game, right? But because you did push ups, you are better at the sport. That's what learning a language does. So when you learn a language, you've just strengthened this portion of the brain that helps you improve in wit, which is quick, right? If you're quick witted, you seem smarter. People who think more slowly are not dumb, but because they can't express it quickly, they are treated differently. So increasing your wit, which is your speed, increasing your cognition, your ability to add formulas, your memory capacity. So, like the amount of space that you actually have to store information increases for science, math, history, language cognition, writing and reading novels, being able to express yourself, writing it out, speaking. Everything improves because of this background exercise that your brain is doing by learning, oh, there are other sounds, other words, and other grammatical phrasing that goes along with communication. Once your brain starts trying to access that even a little bit, you have become stronger across the board. It's insanity. It's like it's crazy. Like if you have somebody who's dyslexic, oh, I can't teach them Spanish because we're struggling with dyslexia. No, you need to teach them Spanish because you're struggling with dyslexia. Oh, my kid has bad memory, so I don't want to give them any more things to memorize. No, no. You need to add a different way to memorize. So, like, not a list of words, but you just see the item and you say manzana, and they go, oh. And so once they see the item and hear the word, they don't have to have the back of it. You know, they don't have to have the reading. They're communicating and going, there's another way to say that. Wait a second, mom, are there other languages too? Yes, sweetheart. There's I don't know, 1,000? I have
A
no idea. I don't know
bajillion.
that number.
Yeah.
I should look up that number. But there's so many ways to say the same thing. And then they improve in empathy and they recognize that I'm not the only country on the earth. And so it's just all encompassing. But to answer your question, how does it help us learn? It's like basically doing the basic exercises in order to make everything else improve.
Yeah, so we're talking about curiosity because it's increasing like, hey, there's other stuff out there, not just me, which is amazing. And then we're also talking about like other ways of seeing things
Mhm.
and activating different parts of our language because we if we only have one language we're only using those specific speech patterns, and
Mhm.
so activating how do we actually make that sound. I know for me taking French, like the r's, oh my gosh, the peanut butter in the back of the throat sound, like I really struggled with that. And so it's something that you know that the sound that you have to make with the R's in French is a little bit different. So, and it feels like, how do you make that sound? And so having your brain focus on doing those things
Yeah.
is makes so many new neural pathways, which, like you said, allows us to do so many more awesome things and
Right.
be involve more of our brain and activate. Because I mean, well, we only use like 10% of our brain or something, right? So
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. We're amazing. So that's absolutely fantastic. I think absolutely 100% second language learning for our health, for that ability to think. I love that
Mhm.
you mentioned also that learning disabilities can, and I don't want to shoot on anybody, but should.
I think you should. You should. You should
I
learn a different language.
should learn a second language to help that those language skills. So, and then also I know that for me, thinking about that idea of culture and thinking about that way that we view the world, the worldview of it, just
Right.
really resonates with me as something that makes you feel like, you know, when you are like absent from school.
Mhm.
And I used to get this all the time. So when you're absent from school, school still happens. Like, did you know
Right.
that? Like, everybody still does stuff. It's kind of weird. Like our ego are like, and I mean ego
Yeah.
is in the sense of like ourselves.
Right.
Our ego says like things don't, if I'm
Stop.
not there, then
Yeah.
how could it possibly happen? But it's happening. And it's such an interesting idea. And so the idea that people see things in different ways, like having more words for love, or like,
Right.
people talk a lot about, there's a Native Alaskan
Right.
language that has like what 50 words for
It's for
snow, right?
snow. Right.
So
Right.
how does that affect the way that we see our world or we see other people's world?
Yeah, it absolutely increases the recognition that there are more than one way. There's more than one way to live. You don't have the corner on the market of the best way to live, the best way to communicate. Our culture isn't. Some cultures are bad. Okay, I'm not going to say that culture is just every culture is okay. No, some cultures are bad, and that culture is wrong and needs to be corrected. But in general, culture just means how we do things, how things are accepted, and there are acceptable ways to do things in other people groups that don't match yours. And so you can be perceived as incorrect when you go somewhere else, not because you're actually incorrect, but because the culture says that. And I think it's important for our kids to recognize that they are in a culture. It doesn't matter where you are. You might be in a public school culture, a private school culture, church, sports culture. There's a speech and debate culture that's a whole different animal. Didn't know about that till we did that. So you go, oh, and you have to learn the culture. And so once you think about, oh, just my small group, there's entire language culture out there that's not right or wrong, but it's different. And so you just are more accepting of there's other ways to accomplish goals that we may not have thought of. And so that opens the possibility. And it's not just like curiosity and awareness, but it's also the physical brain. It actually gets more folds and gets more malleable if you learn a second language. Your brain is actually more stiff if you're a monolingual. If you're
Mm.
bilingual or more, your brain is more pliable. So the physicality of the thing, the mush that's in there, is actually more pliable physically. And they know this because of autopsies from
Mhm.
people that had dementia. Well, what happened? Well, their brain hardened. Well, why? Well, they didn't use it as often, right? And we know this, right?
Mm.
Keep those older people moving, keep talking to them, keep engaging them, play games, all these things to keep it malleable. If you know more than one language, your dementia possibility is 10 years off. You get another decade of memory, wit, and ability to communicate than if you only know one language. It's around 72 years old is when dementia patients get diagnosed here in America. In Europe, 82 to 84.
Wow.
And they looked at diet, they looked at exercise, they looked at air quality. What is it? And the only thing they could point to was people in Europe know more than one language.
That is fascinating. I love that. That's so interesting. And I'm working with this mom who her daughter in high school, she's obsessed with learning multiple languages and other
Nice.
cultures. And I mean, to the point at which that's almost only what she learns. And so she
I'm
could care
done.
about the rest of it.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
fine.
so great. I absolutely love it. She's learning Russian. She's like on
Wow.
Russian 4 right now. She's
Wow.
doing, and she's a June sophomore. She's a sophomore.
Goodness.
So, and she's learning Spanish. I mean, she's already dabbled in a little bit of Italian because they go there. Like she's so fascinating. And in fact, she is going to be studying abroad in Rome next year, which is so
Nice.
amazing. And she's just so fascinated with that. And I think that for her expansion, it's not only led to her studying Russian, but she like makes Russian food
Right.
sometimes. She like, "Hey mom, can we make this?" She studies Russian literature and history, and it's just beyond that one language. It's like a door opening.
Yeah.
I
It's
love
all
it.
encompassing once you dabble a little bit because culture and language really can't be separated. And so the more you do, the more you want. Yeah, it's phenomenal how much I don't know that you just want more and more and more as you start a little bit. And then, I want to say too, people say, "Oh, that guy's a genius. He knows seven languages." But it's the other way around. Typically, he learned the seven languages, which then made him a genius. And
Right.
so once you start, your brain has a hard time. And so I want to put that out there. Adults that are like, "Ugh, that sounds exhausting. Do I really have to do that?" I mean, of course you don't have to, but it's like, do I really need to exercise? Yes. Yes, you do. We need to exercise for the quality of life. And so if you want to say, how I'm forgetting things, how can I improve my memory? Learn a second language. There's so many different opportunities to do it. And then once you learn one language, your brain gets better at learning languages. So when you start, you might say, oh,
Yes.
yeah, I can't remember manzana. But then once you learn 3 words, guess what? The next three are easier and the next three are easier. And so it snowballs. So once she's learned Russian, yeah, Spanish is a breeze. Spanish is, I'd say, I honestly think that Spanish is the easiest second language for English speakers to learn, hands down. So
Absolutely.
if you're going to start
Yeah.
somewhere, it's phonetic, it's super easy. There's lots of cognates, and it's the second most spoken language in America. So it makes the most sense. After Spanish, then yeah, keep on going. Do French, Italian. I can talk to a Portuguese person completely in Spanish. They speak Portuguese, and we're fine. So
Right.
there's a lot of similarities for all those
Right.
languages.
Right. And I love that you mentioned that it because it does seem hard and we
Mhm.
think, okay, the kids, we remember studying it in school and like, oh, the testing and the things and the memorizing and all this. So and you also mentioned something about, learning languages at the same time. So when we're younger,
Yes.
it's easier, right?
A lot easier. Yeah, your brain, whenever we talk about toddlers and we say, oh, they're little sponges, they really are. Their brain actually is more sponge like. The hard part about a sponge, when it's soft, think about it, it also lets go of the liquid easily. So that's the case too. So you have a toddler who can speak Spanish, French, Italian, whatever it is, because they were in those environments, they soaked it up. They will also lose it very, very easily if they don't keep going. So as the brain hardens, it's not all bad, it's holding on to information longer too. So as an adult, the cool thing is if you put in information in now and you work hard at it, you will hold on to it longer than like a toddler, 4 or 5 or 6 year old.
Mm.
If you did it in high school, right around puberty, man, it's a crapshoot. You don't know. You could have held on to it,
Right.
or yeah, you don't know because you don't know where you were hormonally. Also, did you dislike your teacher? Was the room too cold? Did it smell funny? Everything affects not, it's such a different type of subject. It's not like math and science and history where you're getting information to then regurgitate. This is stuff you have to absorb so that you can use it later. It's very different than giving the information back. You're making use of it, not assigning a title or memorizing a fact. So it's being stored, hopefully, in a different part of your brain. If you're treating it like history or science, then you just have this list of information and you can't actually access it to use it. That's why you do this thing where you're like, I used to know that. And you look up because that's where it was stored. It shouldn't be stored up there. It should be
Right.
stored in a place where you absorbed it and used it. So it takes forever, but you will get there. You just have to be patient with yourself after puberty. And then the further away we are from puberty, the harder our brains are. So it takes a little bit more work. But once you get it, you got it. So don't give up.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And what do you do if our kids are, let's say we have a middle schooler? It's
Mhm.
we can start now and then we don't have to wait till high school to have
Um,
that requirement done. We can do it in middle school and then just keep reinforcing. What's the best, and this is a dumb question, but what's the best way to for someone to learn? We were talking about learning like history or learning like science, and we store this information, which
mhm.
I feel is like how most people learn language
Yeah.
in school, is that we store all this
Check it off.
memorizing everything. Yes, check, 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 which you guys know how I loathe the box checking. But
Yes.
and that's one of the reasons why. But how do we learn it in a way that can be more retentive?
So you just need to think about what did we do before? Here we are speaking fluently in English. How did we get here? Well, our parents would say something and they would point to a thing and we had context for the sound. So same idea. You have an item, manzana, manzana. And so you're like, I didn't tell you this is how you spell it. I didn't tell you the phonetics of Spanish. I didn't say, hey, worry about, how to sound it out and these la and blah blah blah. I didn't do any of that. They heard the word and they saw the item. So that's the best method because that's what your brain is already hardwired to do. As English speakers, our parents talked about items first. So here's la cama. Oh, sorry, la cama. And so you want nouns first. Chinese, they learned verbs first. So they,
Interesting.
instead of saying, do you want milk? Like, right, we'll say bottle or milk or juice to our kids. In Chinese, they'll say to drink, drinking. And so they
Mm.
use the verb form. If I was speaking to Chinese people, I would say, hey, focus on the verbs because that's what your brain is hardwired to do. And so you just kind of need to go through the same natural progression. So with here, we have la manzana, and then we have quiero, I want. So we can say quiero la manzana, quiero la cama. Sí, claro. I want quiero los calcetines. And so you're swapping out the thing that you are the most familiar with, the noun, leaving the thing that's a little bit harder, which is the verb, I want. And then a lot of kids will be like, no quiero. Well, that's awesome. They communicated, right? No
Yeah.
quiero la manzana. And so immediately, because there's no words to translate and there's nothing to sound out, their brain is functioning in a way to communicate, not to memorize.
I
So
love that.
there you
And just like you were talking about, I remember one of the classes I had in college, actually, a Spanish class I had, we started with TPR, so total personal
Yes.
response, right? So I felt like that was such an effective way to use you. So you say la porte, right? La porte is, am I saying that right?
In
And
French, yeah. In Spanish, la puerta.
yeah, La Puerta. I was thinking French actually.
You did
So
French. You did
you
great.
go, so you actually go to it. You go to the
Right.
door,
And
right? That's
touch
a
it. Right.
door. So you go to
Mhm.
the door, and then you go to you just kind of you tap things, you point things,
Yeah. Picked up and you
you're
said,
integrating
"Alejandro."
with it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's a really fun way, especially for younger kids who are still really kind of into that. You can do it around your house, and
Yeah.
then you remember stuff better when you're more sensory. There's more senses
Yes, all the
involved,
different
right?
senses from seeing it, touching it, hearing it, all those different things. The more way you can do it, the better. The worst way is to read it and then repeat it because you're gonna like
Which we
mispronounce
all
it.
did in school.
Yeah, and that's what we did,
Yeah.
right? They gave us a list of words. We mispronounced it. We memorized it by looking at it on the piece of paper. And a lot of times you could see the list, right? You could see like the stack of words, but you couldn't read the words in your head. You could only see, oh, I remember that was on page 18, and there's a kid with an apple sitting next to it, but I don't remember that word. And that's because we memorized it as information rather than as communication. So if you want to learn to communicate in a second language, you have to practice communicating in a second language. If you learn on an app, you get really good at the app. That's it. And it
Right.
doesn't affect your brain in a positive way because you're not communicating with anybody else. Like you and I are sitting here communicating face to
Right.
face, even though we're on a screen. I'm still looking at your face, you're looking at mine. We have our body movements, everything. So different than if you and I were sitting here clicking an icon. And so your brain really is affected by all of these things. So practice it and learn it the way you want to use it. If you're going to learn to, like, if you're going to use it on an app, sure. Okay. But probably that's not what you want to do. If
Right.
you're just trying to get a streak, fine, do it that way. But if you actually want to be able to speak, learn it by speaking.
And how does writing fit into that? How does writing the language fit into that? Because I know it's another sensory skill, but then, just remember, when I'm in class and I'm just, like conjugating verbs, and
Right.
like just like not really focused on that. But it is something, if you want to be a complete communicator, that it is important to learn. So how do you make that more retentive there?
So yeah, you want to think about the same thing as before. With a baby, they're fluent in English and whatever their first language is by age 4 or 5, right? They're completely fluent. They can say anything they want and they understand, unless it's outside of their vocabulary, everything's going on around them without any question. Can they write? No, they cannot. Can they read? No, they cannot. So you want to add that in at that ability level. So at the point where you are able to hear la manzana, and hopefully everybody out there just thought of this picture, right? And they're like, oh, la manzana. After you're comfortable with that sound, then you add the writing, the reading. For some people, it might be 3 days. For other people, it might be 3 months. It depends on their age, their astuteness, their handwriting ability. If they hate writing, like they hate it, don't make them write when they're learning a second language.
Right.
That they're not going to, they're just going to hate the language now.
Right.
So choose things that the kids enjoy, from playing games, charades, like you said, TPRS, listening to stories, watching movies. There's so many ways to get input. And then when they want to remember something, they're gonna surprise you. They're gonna pick up their little Spanish learning dictionary. I don't have it with me, but they're gonna pick up their little notebook, and here it is. And they're gonna write on one side their Spanish, and they're gonna write on the other side their English because they want to grab it. The motivation changes because now you're not pushing them. So to help them to get to that point, you may have to model it, and they watch you writing and reading and memorizing, and they go, oh, she's doing that. So modeling it will help them to want to do it. I know that's a bummer, but it's true.
Did you I'm just getting fired up over here because if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, does it sound familiar?
Yes,
Does
you
it
have
sound
to model
familiar?
it.
You have heard this from me so many times and waiting for them to grab it. I love that because that's not something that we teach
Right.
in when we teach public school language classes or even most other language classes. We don't teach
Right.
that to grab that thing. Hey, I want to write that. Hey, now I need to learn more about it. So, and it makes sense to grab it because as you're thinking about how the word is formed, right, you're thinking about what letter makes that sound, and
Yes.
how do we, this sound sounds the same as that one, does that mean they're the same letter or what? So
Yeah.
that makes sense for us to just take that on, and that may be something that has a lot to do basically with love of learning and keeping that love of
Yes,
learning high.
absolutely. Yeah,
For
once you can
sure.
own it, for sure, and you can grab it. And I think it's also important to like be able to see both words in both languages at the
Mhm.
same time. If you can't do that, there's a frustration and there's a wonder, there's a you're not sure. If you're lacking
Right.
in confidence, like I have this and you're like, wait, are we talking about the leaf? Are we talking about the color red? What are we saying here?
That's a good
Well, I
point.
remove the wonder by putting it on the back. And so, like, same with the bed. Am I saying bunk bed or what am I saying? And
Good
on the
point.
back, I have exactly what you're saying, la cama, the bed. And then we have the phonetic spelling. So anytime you're learning a second language, you want to remove frustration, remove confusion, and improve confidence. 1 or 2 words at a time, 5 words or so per week until the snowball starts growing. So you just want baby steps. The idea is X plus one, right? As adults, as puberty, during teenagers, and then all the way down, X plus one. Wherever you are is X. If you try to learn 20 words today, you're going to sit down and quit tomorrow. So
Right.
just give yourself 3 or 4 and try to do it in the way you want and then you like. And then you're going to start feeling I promise, within 6 weeks, you're going to be like, wow, my memory is really a lot better now. You're going to be shocked. Yeah, 6 weeks. It does take some
So
time. It's
fascinating.
not overnight,
Right.
but it will happen.
And you learn along with your child, then you can converse together and you're practicing. You're like, "Ah,
Totally.
la
Yes.
you're like, it's
So exciting, especially if like
so
one of the
exciting.
parents isn't learning. It's like
Right? They're like, "Get with the program." Like, everybody, the whole family gets caught up in it. You guys, these are all teaching techniques that I've taught you over and over and over again. And this is something that when you're that inspiration, you're creating that culture to where this is just what we do. That
yes.
is such a beautiful thing, and that's really what's going to help create the inspiration for that for everyone. So I love the idea of doing it together. And so tell me a little bit about Flip Flop Spanish. Tell me about that. We can't not talk about that. And how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out more about it? And like, when is a good time to start?
Oh yeah.
Tell
So
me.
now, right? The answer is now. No matter how old you are, no matter where you are in your season, whatever it is. I will say this: whenever you're brand new to homeschooling, if they come to my booth at a homeschool convention and they're like, "We're starting tomorrow. What do you have for Spanish?" I'm gonna say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Go find your core. Go find your English, your science, your history, and your math. After a week or two of getting that under your belt, then add the electives because it just is so much, and you do baby steps there too.
You
But
need to come
if
talk
you're
to
not
me first.
yeah, yes, yes, absolutely. Then we can tell you everything that you need to know and help you get it all scheduled and figure out for success how to do it. Then you add in your electives afterwards, and it's kind of turns into the carrot. It's so fun. So flipflopspanish.com has everything that you need. It has your flashcards, the audio, and so your kids do not have to be readers. So if you have 3-year-old, well, they're not reading yet. My 5-year-old, I have a kid with dyslexia. He's not great at reading yet. That's cool. This is going to help him become a reader because he's not having to read. He's just exercising a portion of his brain that does not create any frustration. And then you're going to accidentally get better at your grammar in English. You're going to get better at comprehension in English as well. Everything improves, like we said. So flipflopspanish.com has a ton of blogs for you. We have the YouTube channel. There's all kinds of ways to make it where it's not difficult. It's not scary. And it's like we're talking 10 to 15 minutes a day, y'all. 3 times a week, 10 to 15 minutes. It is not this daunting task. You feel like you're playing a card game. And that's the way to go about it is have a good time, learn with your kids, and then your own chances of dementia and Alzheimer's, all that stuff, will be
Right.
pushed back by 10 years. So you kind of owe it to yourself and to your grandkids, right? Like, why not take a chance and help your kids to learn now rather than waiting till high school and just making them do it on their own. Do it with them.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm inspired. I'm
Yay.
ready to go. And you do live classes as well, right?
Yes. So Spanish Geniuses has that scholar level. We've talked about the scholar level of learning. And
Mhm.
so SpanishGeniuses.com is more like the kid is on his own. He's ready to grab his own language and go forward. And so that's what that course is for. It's pre-recorded. So they can go as fast or as slow as they want. They can rewind me, fast forward me, mute me. They can do whatever they want. And then we have live sessions to practice. So like every twice a week we get on and we just talk about whatever the kids choose. Today we're talking about where have we traveled and by what means. But we only speak in Spanish. And
Love it.
so it's and you don't have to know any Spanish at all. You could get on there today and you would learn how to tell me things about where you've traveled in Spanish.
I love it. I love this. So awesome. I'm inspired. I hope you're inspired. In fact, I know you are. If you've watched this whole thing, you listen to this whole thing, you can find all the links to contact Suzanne, to know about Flip Flop Spanish in the wherever you're watching or listening to this. It's all in the show notes, the description, in the Facebook groups. You'll be able to find it there. So make sure that you contact her and look at that website and just get started. I
Yeah.
love it. I love
Once you
it.
get started, you'll be hooked.
Exactly, exactly. So, thank you so much for joining us today, Suzanne. I know we could just keep on going talking forever. Like she said before, we were recording here that that we could probably just it's a good thing we don't live near each other because we wouldn't get anything done.
Nothing
So,
done. We'll be
I
there.
totally enjoy chatting with her and I hope you did too. I know you did. So, we'll see you again next week. Thanks so much again, Suzanne, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.